Started. Heather she's pushing record. She's on it. So welcome everybody to the May National Heritage Areas Best Practices Call. I am one of your organizers and hosts. My name is Sarah Lyle and I work at Arabia Mountain National Heritage Area outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And then Heather is our other host and founder of this wonderful call. So welcome. Super excited about today's call. I've been kind of spying on some of these programs for a really long time and trying to figure out how to get art into the Arabia Mountain National Heritage Area. So I'm super excited that Chris from Rivers of Steel is here, and then Allie from Niagara Falls is here. We are going to have someone from the National Park Service come in and give us a little bit of a brief on the transitional management assessment program that's happening around the NHAs. And so that's going to come at the end of these two presentations. So please stick around for that. Liz is going to give us a little bit more information on that at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Chris McGinnis from the Rivers of Steel National Heritage Area, where we are going to learn about their public and contemporary art programs.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. I'm going to move into screen share here. And can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say I lost a view of everyone, so I'll take that as a yes. So thank you very much. Happy to be on this call, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about some of our programs here. As was mentioned, my name is Chris McGinnis. I'm Director and Chief Curator for Rivers of Steel Arts, which is obviously the arts and creative placemaking wing of the Rivers of Steel Heritage Corporation, and representing Rivers of Steel Heritage Area, 8 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania. So our mission, founded on the principles of heritage development, community partnership, and a reverence for the region's natural and shared resources, Rivers of Steel strengthens the economic and cultural fabric of Western Pennsylvania by fostering dynamic initiatives and transformative experiences. So as a heritage area, we showcase the artistry and innovation of our region's industrial and cultural heritage, primarily through our attractions and historic sites. We focus on unique experiences, workshops, exhibitions, opportunities essentially to engage with this history and culture. And behind the scenes, we support economic revitalization. We work with a lot of communities at the grassroots level on community development, economic development, everything from kind of large scale to small scale, and capital programs and projects, as well as kind of grassroots level organizing in some cases. So I'm going to talk briefly about some of our sites very quickly and then move into the arts, but just for those that might not be familiar with Rivers of Steel, some of those sites and attractions, primarily Cary Blast Furnaces is probably our most well-known heritage site, located in Rankin, Pennsylvania, National Historic Landmark. We also have ownership and represent the Pump House, which commemorates the location of the 1892 Homestead Strike. The Bose Building in the National Historic Landmark in Homestead, also affiliated with that event. W.A. Young and Sons Foundry and Machine Shop, which is a National Historic Landmark in Greene County, Pennsylvania. And as you can see, is a traditional machine shop, belt driven. And then we also have a Riverboat Explorer on which we do a number of different river biology and ecology programs and school-based initiatives and STEM projects that work with local youth and such. So focusing on the arts, I'm going to do my best to keep this discussion in 20 minutes. And since I can't see anybody, I won't be able to know by visuals, but Sarah or Heather, if you want to just kind of chime in and yell at me if I'm getting over time, that would be fine, because there's a lot to go over here. But Rivers of Steel Arts, our mission, kind of submission from the main mission, is to celebrate creative inquiry through crafting opportunities to interpret the region's past, reimagine its future, and explore a sense of place. And we work through exhibitions, festivals, tours, happenings. We deal with communities directly with creative placemaking, and we have a number of public and school programs where we're working with organizations and individuals in the region. I'm going to talk a bit about our primary programs and events and some of the exhibitions we've done recently, and then some of our ongoing initiatives in placemaking. So our three primary program areas are metal arts, graffiti arts, and heritage arts. My colleague John Angle spoke a few weeks ago about the heritage arts program specifically, which is a folk and traditional arts program of Rivers of Steel. And so I'm not going to speak too much about that program. I'm going to focus on the other ones here today. But in a nutshell, the heritage arts program was the original arts program of Rivers of Steel before I got involved in the organization, once titled the Cultural Conservation Program, which is now kind of seated within this heritage arts umbrella. And it's worth mentioning that the programs I'm going to talk about now are a relatively new manifestation in the organization. I came to be involved with Rivers of Steel in about 2012 or 13. Before which none of these programs really existed. We had worked with numerous folks in the past to do some one-off projects and activities in these various fields, but there was no representative or comprehensive structure under which these could be worked in professionally as part of the organization to help support interpretation and the larger mission of Rivers of Steel. So that process kind of unfolded around 2014 to 16 through a large program development, strategic planning, and business planning program that I led to help integrate some of these activities in the metal arts and graffiti arts that were happening at the time, and to help develop a structure within which we could work successfully with the existing heritage area and heritage preservation platform for Rivers of Steel, and ultimately be able to expand the reach regionally to better support communities and to kind of open up the organization to allow the arts to further that interpretive potential. So we're going to start off with the metal arts program. Excuse me, I need to take a drink. So metal arts is probably our flagship program at Rivers of Steel right now, by virtue of, I think, its direct lineage to some of the original inspiration for Rivers of Steel as an organization. So it connects directly to that. We operate workshops, public workshops and classes, after school programs, public demonstrations, and a number of different products that we sell that are cast at Carry Furnaces. So this program focuses primarily on foundry work, although we do offer welding experiences and blacksmithing demonstrations, and we're building out platforms to offer more robust workshops in each of those fields in addition to foundry work. But we've really focused on foundry work primarily because of the obvious connection to the Carry blast furnaces, which is where our metal arts facility exists primarily at this stage. So it allows us to more directly connect with what took place on that site, the occupational traditions and history of that location and the communities that fuel the workforce there, but also to draw kind of direct connections for people that are on tours that understand at a scale level the kinds of work that took place there. So when we have an iron pour, and I'm going to jump back real fast to an earlier image, in the bottom left, you see this cupola furnace here that's being operated. Essentially, that's a scale model of the type of process that took place at Carry blast furnaces, which was an iron blast furnace. So when we conduct our iron casting workshops and events and experiences at Carry, the attendees are really getting almost a one-to-one example of what took place there, only at about 1/1000th scale, essentially. Gives you a sense of just how large and dominating the furnaces themselves are. So these are other demonstrations of castings. This was actually a bronze casting that took place at one of our other sites called Young & Sons Machine Shop and Foundry. So representing some of the offsite things that we'll do. We work with communities. We work within our own external heritage sites, or alternate heritage sites other than Carry. We will take these kind of demonstrations to schools, and we will take them to partner organizations, and we will do corporate trainings and team working operations and activities with folks. So it kind of ranges the types of things that we work with, and these are other examples of that. The top image is a taken from one of our aluminum casting workshops that we did, in this case with the Wounded Warrior Project, where we had a number of veterans come in and create projects that we then cast in aluminum for them, and then they were able to take home. And so this is an example of a type of public workshop that we also run regularly right now. And on the bottom, just a couple images from an offsite demonstrations and workshops we did. And one was in welding, of course, on the bottom left, and the other one was actually, they're welding hoods. The kids are wearing welding hoods, but this was a casting workshop that we took to a trade school in Grove City that we work with on occasion that doesn't have foundry capabilities, but it offers an extra supplement to their industrial arts experiences that they get through that school. So the other major program heading I'm going to talk about is our Graffiti Arts program. And this is another program that started, in addition to the metal arts, started kind of before there was an official arts program at Rivers of Steel. Our curator and coordinator for this program, Shane Pilster, began work focusing on the graffiti murals at Carey Furnaces in about 2012 or 13, and had started to develop the framework for tours and other programs that focused on those murals and the story and the history of graffiti writers at Carey Furnaces. And so the main reason for focusing on or choosing to highlight graffiti at the site is because of its role in the post-industrial era. And that kind of goes for the arts program in general, is the sense of recognizing the post-industrial period of the site as an equally important period in the lineage of the furnaces themselves. So not only valuing the period when it was a functioning blast furnace, but also looking at what took place between 1984 and current day, because the site certainly wasn't inactive. So we also run a series of tours, workshops, after-school programs, and public murals and demos that kind of all fall under the Graffiti Arts program. And we've had people come to the site to create murals from all over the world. Here we have on the bottom a picture, a muralist from Mexico who's creating this mural. On the top left is a mural done by, or a small piece, not necessarily a mural, done by an artist from Australia. And on the top right is Shane Pilster kind of going through the basics with a group of folks, part of our workshops, learning about the basics of graffiti. And you know, it's important to us to kind of get across the impact that this program had on the site. And you know, at the beginning, there was a lot of pushback for why would you want to preserve or recognize that component of the site's history. But I think it, you know, by calling it out, embracing it, and essentially bringing people in through the front door to come in and work on the site, it allowed us to focus activity on areas that were non-contributing structures, so that we were no longer dealing with the need to remove graffiti from places where we had to because of the historic status. But it also allowed us to curate into the site works that were of serious, substantial quality, that we were able to actually have some level of control, and also you know, contribute to the cultural growth on site, understanding this as an important part of the creative history of specifically the Carey Furnaces, which has a cross section of murals by people that, you know, were created from the early 80s through today. So you really get a sense of the people, the types of people that were working in this field at that point in time. Shane himself is also a strong advocate for the importance of legal walls and the need to have legal outlets for graffiti writers so that they can, you know, practice this skill and without fear of being prosecuted. So we do a lot of work through Shane with local communities to try to bring that message out, advocate for legal outlets for graffiti to dissuade youth from doing it illegally, and trying to find legal opportunities for that. This is just an overview slide of our Heritage Arts program, which again, I won't go much into, but we do offer or work with the community and do school programs and public art. John Engel, our program coordinator for this program, does a lot of field work and meeting with with local folk and traditional artists to try to, you know, work on or integrate them into the overall Rivers of Steel structure, provide opportunities to support their work and highlight their work in a number of different ways, but you may have already heard about those. So switching gears into events, we run a number of events throughout the year in non-COVID times. So this is an image taken from a community day we had in 2018, where an artist developed signs with members of the community, essentially asking them to have one word that described the Carey furnaces in this case, and then they were turned into signs that were distributed throughout the whole event. So people were kind of walking around with these different understandings of what the site meant to them. Each year we run a festival of combustion that is specifically focused on the industrial arts and American craft. So this is the poster from the 2019 event, which was kind of the largest it had achieved at that point in time. And we, of course, didn't run it last year, and we won't be running it this year, but we're gearing up for 2021 or 2022, excuse me. And so this event will feature a large iron casting operation as the central piece. We will have welding, blacksmithing, glass blowing, mosaic works. We have raku fire ceramics, music all day, number of different vendors that will come. We'll have fireworks at the end of the night. It's a pretty big operation. But it's become kind of the quintessential event that wraps in most of what Rivers of Steel represents, from the heritage preservation of the site and the cultures that existed and made up the workforce, to the industrial arts that have become such a component of the organization. This is just an image of that event, and then another one up top of the foundry work that was taking place there that day. Another event that's brand new this year, or excuse me, last year was your quintessential kind of COVID pivot program, where the Carey Carpool Cinemas. We launched a drive-in program as a result of COVID that allowed us to still maintain active programming on site in a way that was safe for everyone to be involved in. So this is an image of what those drive-ins look like that was taken last year when we were showing Flashdance. And it's been a real opportunity for us to welcome in a different group of people, stretch our wings a little bit in the community, and do something different, and curate films that are appropriate to the region, and also to our organization. So we have a lot of fun putting together different themes for weekends based on trying to connect with our programs. This year we're doing one weekend that's focused specifically on metal art. So we're calling it Heavy Metal Menagerie. So we're going to do movies that are inspired by hard rock or heavy metal with metal casting demonstrations before them. Another thing we do often are exhibitions. Light Play was also a pivot program from last year, where we focused on opening the site up in the evening for tours, open air tours, and then worked with a number of light artists to develop light installations on site. So you could explore these installations in the evening time during time tickets so that we spread people out. And everything was outdoors, open air. So it was really enabled folks to have an exciting and unique cultural experience in what was otherwise a really challenging time. And it pushed our boundaries to be able to drop electricity into parts of the site that weren't available before, and do things we really hadn't been able to accomplish yet. Alloy Pittsburgh is an exhibition and residency program we run every few years. We're actually running it right now. Opens the site up for temporary site-based installations with local contemporary artists. And it's connected with a research residency period that allows artists to learn in greater depth about the importance of the Carey furnaces, but also about its relationship to the community, and Rivers of Steel's relationship to the community throughout the years, and the work that it's taken to preserve various sites, why that is an important job or an important thing to do, how it's contributed to the economy, the challenges that went into that process, and then also opportunities to connect with the community. So the artists are learning about this kind of comprehensive understanding, and then they come back to the site and they develop temporary site-based installations that go up for a month, and we run a series of programs around them. And sometimes they're performance, like you saw in this one on the left. Others are, this is a bunch of theater gels that were placed in a part of the site to kind of create a sort of chapel-like experience in that location. The top right image here was created in the first year we did it in 2013. And it was a series of 15 small vignettes throughout the site that you could kind of stumble across. And then the bottom one here was this artist was interested in the relationship between ecological growth, natural growth on site, and dilapidation and decay. So she had created these perforated screens that fit in the base of an area. The stock house was about 40 of these that were installed there. This is an exhibition that we ran a couple years ago in connection with the Homestead First Fridays, which I'll talk about briefly, which was also a light-based installation in our building in Homestead. So this was a kinetic installation. Obviously, this is just a still image, but it gives you a sense of what it looked like, and all these squares lit up at different levels and created designs across them in various colors. And it was up in the middle of Homestead on 8th Avenue for about a year. So anytime you entered the borough, you would see this kind of really dramatic light display at nighttime. So in addition to events, programs, that sort of thing, we also have a dedicated creative placemaking presence in specifically in the Mon Valley that we've deemed the Mon Valley Creative Corridor. And this is intended to specifically work with communities throughout the Mon Valley region to help them leverage their cultural and historical assets to generate economic growth through tourism, and just help rebrand communities as places that people might want to live or set up a business, etc. So this kind of gives you a sense of the footprint, the image on the right. The basic tenets or structure of it is to seed local talent and feature local community folks and creative events, and also bring additional exciting things into those communities to raise the bar. Skill building and education, to support and expand existing cultural assets, as I mentioned, and establish a series of cultural activity magnets communities in various points throughout the Mon Valley that allow us to work actively with and then expand into more rural areas. A lot of people don't understand necessarily how rural this part of Pennsylvania gets the further you get away from the city. So the challenges become very different in some of these communities, and working with them to help develop strategies to meet those challenges is one of the things that we try to do within this initiative. This is just an image of one of our hot metal happenings that we'll do as an example of some of the public programs and pop-ups that we do within the creative corridor. So our hot metal happenings are mobile metal casting demonstrations, and these folks are lining up to kind of cast or create their molds to have them cast. Homestead First Fridays was another wing of the creative corridor that focused specifically on the borough of Homestead, developing a First Fridays initiative to increase foot traffic on the 8th Avenue Main Street, and to generate community action and activity and interest in supporting businesses downtown. So we ran this in 2019 with a fair degree of success. And then of course it got shut down last year. And now we're kind of in conversations with our partners in the borough about how we rethink this moving forward. And it's starting to evolve into greater, more frequent daytime community activities and family related programming, things that would be not only isolated to evening experiences, but sort of expanding on that so that we can better serve various different facets and levels of the community, not only the business, nightlife, but also daytime family experiences and that sort of thing. And it's worth mentioning our offices and museum, the Bose building is based in Homestead, so it's a very logical place for us to be conducting this kind of activity. So I think I was going to leave it there. I don't know if we're doing questions right now, but I just in the interest of time, and I'm not sure, Sarah, if you'd like me to stop sharing or keep it open in case folks want to see some of the other images.
All right, thanks, Chris. I think you can go ahead and close it down. We typically save questions for the end, and you're like right on at 20 minutes, so.
Great.
That was so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I can see how you probably needed more than 20 minutes. You guys really have a wonderfully robust program, so I really appreciated learning more about it. So next up, we've got Ali Spunger from Niagara Falls. And Ali, just let me know when you want me to kind of throw those links into the chat. I've got them all open up on my computer. So Ali's going to share about Niagara's public murals program, I'm pretty sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Chris. I've learned a lot from what you were sharing already, and excited to see what else you guys are doing in the future, especially with programs and events, as we're able to do so again going forward in the future. So, well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm going to throw on my screen share here real quick. Let's see. Okay, and I'm not that quick with technology, so just bear with me just a little bit here. 1 second. I am just going to minimize. Oops. Oh, hang on, everybody. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm from the Niagara Falls National Heritage Area, and right now we are in the process of jump-starting our public art initiative. We're kind of brand new, so as Chris was kind of sharing, it seemed that you really got started in 2013 and 14 building in the structures, and we're kind of just getting started now. So we're a little bit more new to developing the public art program, but we've been learning a lot as we go. And this really stemmed from all of our, of course, our management plan and all of our projects thus far. And really what was inspiring to us to develop the public art were these amazing walls that were located or are located right outside of the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center. So we were responsible for helping the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center build their exhibits and get open, which opened in 2018, which was a huge success here in Niagara Falls. It's in the north end of the city. And the north end of the city of Niagara Falls is kind of separated a little bit from the downtown tourist area that you may be familiar with, whether you've traveled there or just overall, just general knowledge of Niagara Falls. So in the north end of the city has suffered quite a bit of economic decline over the last couple of decades. It was formerly pretty much industrial. There's a predominantly Black community up in the north end. So really important to be able to start kind of moving in this direction here to implement projects and work with the community, which we had been doing for the last 6 or 7 years or so. And really this generated and started from the opening of the Underground Railroad Heritage Center. So the image that you see here first is the mural of Harriet Tubman, which is along this corridor. It also shows artist Madonna Pennell, who grew up just up the street and drives past these walls in this corridor every day to get to work. So it's a really important space. We wanted to also bring some of the stories of the Underground Railroad outside of the museum's walls. A lot of the things that we had learned was just that we didn't want to only have people come to us. We also wanted to come out to people, go into the community and bring that story to a wider audience. So you can see here that this is the walls outside of the Underground Railroad Heritage Center and the Niagara Falls train station. You'll see that on the right side, there's the sign that's over there. And then these are the blank walls that this was taken, I believe in early 2019 or late 2018. So this was kind of our blank canvas of where we were really getting started here. And I actually want to, if you bear with me on technology a little bit, I'm going to escape out of that. And I want to pull this up real quick right here. And this is our virtual tour program for the Heritage Center itself. Oops. Thank you everyone for bearing with me on this. Okay. And I want to show you this because it just also shows the location in a virtual sense. We haven't built our virtual program yet for the murals, but we hope to do that next. And here, oops, if I can zoom us around. We're inside the Heritage Center, but I want to bring us outside. So this is the outside of the Heritage Center. We have actually some artwork here featured on the outside of the building. And if I turn over here, you can kind of see the murals in the background. I can't zoom in. It wasn't built out that way because it was specifically built just for the Heritage Center. But I wanted to be able to show you a little bit of the proximity in how these projects are kind of unfolding. And what we've been saying a lot is that the public art and these local stories are really coming out of the North End, which is exciting because it's a little bit different than what most would expect with downtown tourism in Niagara Falls. We don't usually see a lot of tourists up here in the north end, but that has started to change with the opening of the Heritage Center. So as we continue to build our mural program and build our public art projects out, we're trying to kind of use that as the creative placemaking to spread people out throughout the city. And of course, making sure that we're investing in our local community first and foremost. So I'm just spinning around here a little bit so you can see. And also just for geographical reference, across the street here, you can maybe see there's this little building over there. That's actually Canada. So we're right there. And the bridge that Harriet Tubman crossed used to be located right outside of the front of the Heritage Center over here. There's a different bridge there now. But back in the day, the suspension bridge was the bridge that Harriet Tubman and many other freedom seekers crossed to freedom. So this place is extremely important. And those stories haven't really been told much before the Heritage Center was being built and is now open. So now I'm going to switch back to my slides here. I'll actually just jump to this one. Okay, this is just another sample of one of the walls. Our project, we call it NF Murals for Niagara Falls Murals, but we also refer to them as the Main and Depot Murals because that's the corner of the street that's here. Main Street is one of the main thoroughfares through this section of the city. Depot Avenue is mostly utilized by the local community that lives and works within the area, which is also known as Highland. And part of this project that I'll also say really quickly, because I'm, this picture up here is relevant to that. Part of this project was also building a walkability and healthy lifestyle within the city, and also creating the whole space to be a safe place for people to enjoy for local residents and visitors alike. We worked with the city of Niagara Falls to be able to repave the road and also the sidewalk, which both had been in disrepair for a very, very long time. Oh, here's a better image on my next slide. This is an in-progress photo. This was, I'm gonna put this at the end of 2019, I believe. So it shows our intersection. On the right, again, is the Heritage Center and the train station. And then we've got kind of the corridor of the murals starting over here. We also now have them on the left. I'll show you some of those as we go through. But you can see the intersection of Main and Depot. So we got the sidewalks over here fixed and on the street as well. And residents really responded really positively to that. Throughout this process, every 10 minutes or so, we're talking to somebody who pulls over, who's riding their bike, walking by. And we received a lot of really positive community feedback. What I also want to share is a little bit about how we brought these murals here to these walls and the process that we created. So I'm going to just leave it up on this image, which this is our team. I actually like the picture because you can also kind of see the length of the murals in the background. But our Niagara Falls National Heritage Area, we only actually have 3 staff members, myself, Sarah, and Chris. And then we work creatively with consultants and partners wherever we can. So always wearing so many hats, but this is kind of the core of the team here who works on these murals specifically. So I want to talk a little bit for a second here about our call for artists. So in 2019, when we started this project, we received a grant from the New York State Health Foundation. And that was really the piece where it really walkability, healthy lifestyle kind of really came into this. The grant was very, very flexible in how we kind of added all different kind of components and really wanted this to be showing that art has an opportunity to really create change, create conversation to address needs of the community and residents beyond just beautifying a space. So we had a series of, we went out into the community, again, kind of went outside of our 4 walls, so to speak, outside of the Heritage Center and went into the community. We worked with our community leaders and partners to have conversations with many of the residents there to get their feedback on what they were looking for, what they would like to see. And what really collectively came out of that was that our community really wanted to see stories from the community. They wanted to see representation of people in their community who were important to them. And so what we saw a bit of, and I'm not sure, I'll jump to that one in a second. On the left side of the screen here, it's hard to see the mural over here. Actually, I will go back and we can see it much better here. This mural that's on the diagonal corner here is a mural featuring Doris Jones. She was a leader in the community for many decades, working at the Niagara Falls Housing Authority, and she worked directly with residents in assisting them in many ways and advocating for their needs. And she's held in very, very high regard within the local community. If coming from outside of the community, you may not know who she is, but we wanted to be able to change that because that was something that really came, like I said, came from residents. They wanted to see local leaders who really made a difference in their community, in their lives. And we took that and we brought that to the artists. So in the call for artists, once we got to that step, we created a process where we had artists applying through Google form. We kept it really simple. We didn't structure it as a very a kind of a typical RFP process. We only asked for submission of 5 work samples, and then we also asked a couple key questions through that Google form. So the questions were along the lines of, what does community mean to you? Can you talk about freedom and what does that mean? What is it, is there a freedom connection for you? That was kind of the theme that we had kind of established through this. And we wanted to kind of get some of the insight from the artists to kind of see how we could pair them with what the community wanted to see. So we really wanted to align that, which is kind of why we really looked more towards actually those questions than some other things that you would typically see in like a public art RFP. We also wanted to really make sure that we were providing opportunities for Niagara Falls artists to have a chance to be able to gain experience to create murals, which is something that within the Western New York community, including Buffalo, which is about 30 minutes from Niagara Falls, if you're not familiar, it's within Western New York, it's hard sometimes for artists to be able to get that first shot at being able to create a mural. And even within Buffalo, which has a much bigger population, much bigger art scene. So we really wanted to work on that as well. And what we did here is we had artists working with other artists, working next to and alongside very experienced mural artists and brand new mural artists. And that was a really, I think, enriching experience for everybody kind of involved in the project. And we wanted to really make sure that, like, if we want to see Niagara Falls artists have opportunities and be able to grow, because there hasn't been much prior to this, we knew we had to kind of think about how we were structuring that throughout. So I'll jump ahead here. This is an image of artist Jonathan Rogers. He was a famous animator many years ago, and he is a local favorite artist. So he is pictured here showcasing part of his early design for his mural, which was the new spirit of Niagara Falls. And the final one actually kind of shows his animated figures, which is kind of his signature, coming out of kind of what was like an enclosed, kind of almost in a way oppressive kind of block-like thing. And this was from an event that we had, a Meet the Artist event that we had in 2019. So we had just gotten started on events and programs were just kind of in the development phase before COVID hit. So that's been kind of a little bit on the back burner for us. And we've really been kind of focusing on building this program, which I'll talk a little bit about here going forward. I'm also just kind of glancing at the time to make sure I'm on track here. This is a mural by Natalie, also from 2019. She had just graduated Niagara Falls High School. It was our first mural, which was, again, a really exciting experience to be able to include and provide opportunities for new artists to be able to jumpstart, hopefully, their career in a lot of ways. This is a picture of Amani. She was working on the Cataract House Waiters, and her mural is located right next to Harriet Tubman's mural. Those are the two that you can kind of see the most from the Heritage Center. So she's featuring the waiters here. And this mural here is done by Tyshon. He is one of our team members as well on the project. And Tyshon's role was kind of unique in how we developed it. Tyshon had worked on another mural for us previously, and we had brought him on board to kind of serve as the artistic and artist liaison. So he really helped a lot of the times kind of translating or being able to kind of share a lot of the community ideas with the artist, because as an artist himself, he was able to kind of figure out how to help artists through their design process to be able to incorporate the community's feedback and wants and needs for art and turn it into, you know, an actual art piece. So he's really skilled in that regard. And part of the project was that he would work alongside the artists in the first round in 2019 and create a mural himself as well. So this is a mural that he created here, and featuring the first local Black physician in Niagara Falls, and his wife, who was a community leader as well, Allison Charles, in his mural here. This image here is an image of a very well-known mural artist in Western New York, out of Buffalo, Dries Wajid, and he's on the right and his son is on the left. And they created a mural of John Spider Martin, who was a jazz musician who grew up in Niagara Falls and played at a building that no longer exists just on the next corner, called the Ontario House. This was a really, really important mural for the local family of John Spider Martin. And we've seen that in some of the other murals, as well as we've connected with descendants or family or friends that are connected to any of the people or stories that we're sharing. And that's a huge part of the investment in the mural process as well, in involvement and inclusion. And we've really been able to kind of see how these stories really come to life through the family, and them sharing more stories and being a part for the mural making, which has been a really fantastic process. This is, you can see part of the Idris's mural, John Spider Martin, here on the left. And this is from the event, the meet and greet with the artist in 2019. And the next mural is a mural by Muhammad Zamen. You can't see it too well, but Muhammad is a local resident in Buffalo, and he is Bengali. So he also he uses the visual representation of calligraphy and language to show whether it be an emotion, theme, or stories that he's trying to share. And what he shares in that mural is a quote from Martin Luther King: "The time is always right to do what is right." And that was something that was really important to the community as well, to see Black leaders represented in some way, to be able to be shared, even if not local to Niagara Falls. So it was kind of a little bit of, it turned out to be a mix of both local stories and in some ways some larger stories as well. So I'm going to jump into now 2020, and we had a little bit of a slower start to the next round. I should also mention that in this corridor right now there are 14 murals. When we're finished, there will be just over 20 in this whole corridor. So it really builds in a full outdoor art gallery space, like I said, in the north end of the city, and in a place that's easily accessible, walkable. Parking is right across the street too. So it really, the way we hope that it will turn out is that it really serves as a destination where people, whether local or from afar, can come and explore these stories. So now we're gonna go to June 2020, and we had an interesting experience, and everything that was going on as the protests were unfolding after the killing of George Floyd, and people were wanting to share voices and really get the messages of Black Lives Matter out there. After a peaceful protest in the city of Niagara Falls, somebody had actually written on this blank wall space. This was a space that we did not have a mural on yet. They had written Black Lives Matter in like a Sharpie, as it looked like as they were kind of walking by. And when we were just kind of out there looking at it, we're like, oh, well, we've got to get this wall ready for this season. We've got to, paint over that anyway. But then we had another thought. It was Tyshon and I, and we thought, well, we don't want to silence that message, if especially as that's a very important voice from the community. So we ended up within, I think it was just under a week, we went from just looking at that blank wall to Tyshon paired up with another artist, Ashley Kay. They're both in this image here, or in this photo here, and came up with a design collaboratively, and then started tracing and painting it out. And we invited the community to come out, and it was a great turnout of tons of different people coming in over the next couple of days to help work on this mural. And it was a really inspirational experience, and probably the most influential to date. So here's a in progress picture here. There was a couple really hot days in there, so this is part of the this is part of the completed mural here. It's a little bit longer in the screen. And then the young folks in the front are from the teen center up the street called The Connection. And we've done various projects with them, over the last couple of years, and the teens that are going through the center. And they're such an important part of our community. So we're working on trying to build in more opportunities for involvement from teens. And applying different methods to be involved, not just direct painting, but perhaps media, documentation, historical research, all event planning, all sorts of different things that we hope we can continue to build in as we grow. This image is from 2020. This was I want to say it was at the end of November, right before it snowed. And this is LaShonda in front of her almost finished piece of Uru Love. And Uru Love was an important person in Niagara Falls. She, in the 1960s, was an art educator and created a lot of art opportunities for youth in the city. And LaShonda really connected with her and created this fantastic piece. This image here is of Amira. She's also an artist who finished her mural in December, actually. As I mentioned, we were running a little behind last year. So we had our artists out there in the colder weather, which they didn't seem to mind at all. But we're getting a jump start this year, and actually, I'll talk about in just a second. We launched our first mural of the season today, actually. But I would just want to say about Amira here, she had applied in the first call for artists round, and she wasn't ultimately selected by the community leaders who were making the decisions on the artists to be selected. But she applied again the next year in 2020 and then was selected. And she is a fantastic artist out of Niagara Falls who's never done anything publicly or really even sold her work. She just created art, and she was kind of actually referred to us by her former high school art teacher. So again, when we talk about opportunities for artists, this was a great jumpstart opportunity for her, and she's actually doing some more work now. So this is my final image that I'm going to just kind of end with here. I know we're running short on time, but I like this image because it really kind of showed a different angle of how the murals kind of go. This was 2019 at the end of the year. So you can see there's snow on the ground and that kind of thing. And that's our team again in this photo. But just kind of wanted to end on that here. And what I'll actually just do really quick, this link I sent over to Sarah, but I was just pulling it up here real quick. Today, I mentioned that today we launched our first mural for this season. And it will be, he started painting today. We had a press conference this morning. And his painting is going on the whole wall inside of the NFTA bus station that's here in Niagara Falls, in an area of the city that we really, really want to work with the community to address what they need in the city, and not just art, but what we can do through art, and really create an amazing opportunity to expand the conversation and that kind of thing. I had thought there was a picture on here of the bus station, but doesn't look like that. But there's the concept design I wanted to share with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. That was amazing. Yeah, super inspirational. And I love that so much. So we've got 3 things that we need to do in 9 minutes, because we have to end at 3 because the Zoom room needs to be used for another purpose for a meeting for Heather. So I'm going to quickly kick it over to Liz from DC. She is going to just introduce Christine Arato. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Just have a quick little update that we wanted to share with you, and then we'll end with questions. Okay.
Kind of last minute. And quick thanks to Ali and Chris for your terrific presentations. Love seeing how heritage areas are able to kind of connect the past with kind of living expressions throughout your region. So really appreciate that. So we just wanted to talk and have a little bit of a brief on the transitional management assessment program that we're doing for the Heritage Area program across the Park Service. So not just in Washington, but also looking at the regions. And this relates to, Martha Raymond retiring. She had been with a little bit of a program review for the program. And so what we did was we brought together other MPS people to create a team to carry out this TMAP process. And with us today is Christina Arado, who's the program manager for the American Battlefield Protection Program, which is another program within the Park Service that works with external partners and financial assistance. And she's on the team, and she's here to just give a little bit of a brief on what the team's been doing and what the next steps are. So Christine.
Hi, thanks for having me. And I know that you're short on time. A structured program review. I think you heard about it in February, and then hopefully all of you have received an email from John Mead earlier this week about the TMAP, inviting you to respond to what we're calling a structured set of questions to invite feedback. And we tried to make this structured set of questions as painless as possible to build on the information you shared through the customer service survey earlier, I guess last summer. And this is one way that we welcome your input, your input, particularly about the key services as a whole, are really critical in our review and our recommendations for the future of the NPS admin support staff and structure. There is an opportunity, in addition to responding to these questions, to join some more expansive opportunities to offer feedback through either focus groups or interviews. We invite you to either send us an email to respond to those questions, signaling your interest. In the past couple of months, we've been interviewing, the team's been interviewing the regional coordinators. We've been strategy to solicit your feedback that minimizes the time that we ask of you, because we know your time is really taken up with the important work you do. So that's my quick update. We anticipate wrapping up, I think, the data collection phase this spring and quickly coming up with the report to the Associate Director for our recommendations. And I'll stop here. If you have any quick questions, I'd be happy to try to address them. Liz also has my contact information and can put you in touch with the team if you'd like to talk to us directly.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine and Liz. Those, unless no one else has questions. All right, Liz has got a question in the chat. Allie, did the muralists keep the Black Lives Matter in Sharpie or incorporate it into the larger mural design? That was a question that I had too.
That's a great question. Actually, we ended up just kind of painting over it. It was really light, like you couldn't necessarily see it from the road. And we don't know who did it. I don't imagine that they might say that. But it was, we hope that they came out to experience it in some way to see that kind of generated
If you have a question, you can type it in the chat and I'll read it, or you can just unmute and yell it out. Okay, let me look at my list. I think my general question, which I think might be useful for me, I know, and maybe for other NHAs, is like, what advice do you have for those of us who might want to start a public art program? Whether that is doing something like First Fridays or putting in murals, like what are the sort of like big takeaways that y'all have learned in this process?
One of the most important things is establishing a strong community of partners to help you with it, that you're not doing it from a top-down sort of perspective, to your best of your ability to kind of work with the resources and the people, individuals, organizations that are the primary stakeholders for what you're trying to achieve, and whatever the project is, so that it ideally in the end your result is something that is resonant and meaningful for those communities and not isolated.
Thanks, Chris.
We, worked with partners that we've worked with before to be able to kind of make this happen. But community input and involvement is so key, and really listening, really taking, to heart in whatever ways, what the community is really looking for, especially when that hasn't been the case in the past for many decades, from whether that be city government or whomever. So listening, super key.
Cool. Thank you. All right, I've got one more question before it's time. So I had a question about, in terms of like the murals, both with the graffiti project and also with the permanent, because it gets covered up. And so I want to know if you guys could speak to that briefly.
Sure. I'm happy to go first. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head in part there, Sarah. With graffiti, there is an assumed sense of impermanence to it. With the murals that we do in-house, meaning at the Carey Furnaces, that's an accepted reality. Anybody that comes in is, understands that not only will it not last very long under those conditions there anyways, but the resultant of the reality of it. And for as far as what we do in the public, there is a similar sense or understanding with the partners that we work with, that there's a lifespan to this, and there's then the option to create something or to touch it up if you want to after that. But that our model or our perspective is to always encourage putting something new there. When that mural feels like it's run its course, that rather than, preserve it or,
Yeah, and in our case, this is pretty brand new to Niagara Falls, and there's only a couple public art pieces, whether that be sculpture or murals, in existence before we started doing public art. So overall, there's not really anything that came before or kind of too much of a plan previously. So we're still working on that. But what we're planning for right now is, in terms of finances, we're making sure that we set aside, since the very beginning, whatever mural we're working on, wherever that funding is coming from, that we set that as you were saying, Chris, thinking about what to change that with, put over it. But this is so new to the community, and they're so thrilled, overall, to be able to have public art. So thinking about changing it is but we're making sure to plan for making sure we have the resources to be able to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Chris, so much. I wish we could talk more, but it is 3 o'clock. Quick plug, we are going to do a best practices call in June about membership programs. So if you have a membership